It's starting, so yeah,
Oh,
there we go.
fantastic. Here we go. Hey, everybody. It's been a long time coming, but here we are back at COLLABCAST. Good evening for our 8th ever edition. As always, I'm Adam Serwinski here with Nick Ayers, fresh off his tour for his hit single, It's on the App. We all know it very well. And today's new song that he wrote was Color of My Chair. Uh, is an ode to the fantastic conversation we had about chair colors. But we're here at Giggle Hangouts for tonight's podcast. As always, rule number one, we want you to steer the conversation, ask questions, be involved. And in order for that to happen, you've got to involve and engage in the chat room. So
Actually, no, we changed that up a little bit. So,
oh, really?
Yeah, so to make this a little bit more exclusive to IAOA, in the event that we posted in the group, this will be easier for us to manage and to stay on top of it. There's a thread. Ask your questions on that thread. So I posted join live here, ask a question live here. So we'll monitor that in the Facebook group. We should have hit that before, but
yeah, that's something I would generally like to know before introing how we go about asking questions. But yes, okay, so join in the Facebook group so you guys can jump on, ask your questions. Tonight we're going to be talking about virtual assistants with a man who I think I would really looking forward to getting to know about. I've gotten to know really well since IAOA 18. Wes Anderson from Financial Network Insurance Agency, located in gorgeous Utah, and apparently they just run out of razors there because he's super proud of this beard he's been rocking ever since.
It's the only manly thing in his life that he can claim. I mean, he's
this is as manly as it gets, baby. This is all anyone needs. Right?
You kind of look like a professional wrestler.
I was gonna say.
So, and I real quick, I gotta mention this is not a product placement for PIB. I'm just drinking coffee out of a PIB cup. But no, so I know Wes, and Wes and I have been friends for a little while now. And if you follow like anything that we do in the group, like as soon as he comments, you'll notice like I'm really quick to give him like a mean emoji face or a sad emoji face, even when he's like literally trying to help somebody. He's just one of my favorite. So to give a little insight, like one of my favorite pastimes is to like use the internet to get on people's nerves, and he just has that.
Troll? Are you telling us you're a troll?
Troll.
I'm a sophisticated troll, and so I like Wes just has one of those faces that you just want to punch, and so like he just has one of those people like I just like to try to agitate him. I love him. People have asked him. I think people have asked him like, "Hey, is Nick mad at you?" And I'm, and Wes is like, "Yeah, I hope he is."
I can only pray and hope.
With the beard, it's nice though because it doesn't hurt as much to hit him. It's a little bit of a cushion. Right, you just come right in.
Look, I don't know if Nick's coordinated enough to hit me. The dude's like 9 feet tall and can't dunk. I don't think he can connect a punch to my face. So
he just has those soft. He just has those soft features. I don't know, something about him. I just want to punch him. Anyways, no, we're glad you're here though, Wes. We love you. Thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Excited.
Absolutely. So we always like to hear first off and right off the bat, Wes, how did you get into insurance? What brought you into this space? Let people know a little bit about your background and so they can get to know you before we just talk about the people that you know in overseas.
Sure. So I actually started with my dad not doing insurance. And my dad had quite the hate for insurance, and I grew up in his company. He created a tech company when I was a little kid, and he was so good at it that I was always Jimmy's boy. He was very good at what he did. And so by the time I was 21, I had been in his company and worked with him. Geez, I think I started at around 12, so however long that is. And no matter how much I tried to excel, it came back to I was Jimmy's boy. And I love that about my dad, but it caused me not to want to be his succession plan. So I find myself 21 years old, set to be his succession plan in the tech world, but I wanted to do something else. So I actually ended up getting in a car wreck, as people do, brand new married, no money to my name, ended up getting hurt in the car wreck on my neck, didn't have money for an attorney, so like a big dingbat, I went to the library and got insurance licensed. And I represented myself against don't want to speak ill of a carrier, but it's one that has a lizard for their mascot. And I went in thinking that I would be okay and just got destroyed. I mean, just completely destroyed. They were able to connect back to my ER visit that I threw up. They were saying it was a virus and not covered on insurance. And so now I have an insurance license. I have no desire to be in my dad's tech company. So I started an insurance company in Utah. I started an agency. And that's how the story started. And I know what I'm good at, and it's technology. And I know what I'm not good at, and it's insurance. And so that's what I did.
So, Wes, let's jump right into it. So people are on this call, people are watching this video, and they want to know virtual assistants. I think virtual assistants and outsourcing is one of those topics going right now where it seems to you either really, really want to do it, or you're very much interested in doing it, or you're very much opposed to it. And I imagine we probably have people who are watching this who are probably fit into both categories. So tell us really quick, how did you get to the place where you said, light bulb, I'm going to hire somebody else to do this stuff?
So for me, when I look at an insurance agency, I maybe see it through a different set of eyes. Like for me, I saw a lot of linear tasks that were completed on a regular basis. I saw a lot of repetition. And so I couldn't get away with paying someone, $17 per hour after all the taxes and stuff to gather data. And so to me, it just, and quite frankly, a lot of the insurance, the monotony of insurance, people don't want to do. It's not sexy. It's not fun. And so for me, I had to find an answer outside of the traditional insurance approach. And in 2015, we got our first virtual assistant. It was just less cost for the labor, but that's not like the big thing for me. The big thing is they enjoyed what they did. And what they did was a lot of the linear tasks that no one else wanted to do.
So talk about those tasks. What tasks are you specifically talking about in the sales cycle?
So within the sales cycle, a lot of data gathering. Like for example, 2017 for our California agency, it was filled with a lot of social media marketing, a lot of referrals that came in and we didn't captivate and or close. So I looked at it as this huge giant pool of data, people that I had VIN numbers, driver's licenses, great amounts of information, but we didn't captivate the sell. So the very first task that we had them do was call that individual, verify the data, and we maybe quoted them, 8 months ago, verify that data, and then just live transfer to the agent. So that was task one because it generated income right off the bat.
So they were literally just following up with clients that were recaptures, finding out data, updating it, and then if they're ready to go, handing them off in a live transfer to an actual salesperson to do anything that they would need a license for.
Correct.
Gotcha. And how many did you start off with?
I started off with one in 2015. And then a couple months ago, we got 10 of them. I kind of looked at the numbers and set everything in front of me, and we got 10 going, and we went from 600 average outbound calls to our first week it was 4,300. So we spiked the numbers dramatically, and we had people that wanted to data gather, that wanted to cold call, and weren't going to get burnout, and have not yet gotten burnout on those tasks.
So you increased your calls eightfold.
Yes.
Just wow. So
real quick, I mean, again, if you guys have questions, ask them in the event page of this COLLABCAST. But I have a couple questions for you. And Vonna has a question. I'll ask hers after I ask this one. The question I have is you mentioned you have a lot of VAs. How many internal staff people do you have that you don't? How many employees do you have that are not outsourced to another country?
Okay, and we'll get into the slides. I'm a different breed when I talk because I have two entirely separate agencies, two separate E&Os. One's in Utah, ones in California, but I'll clump everything together. We have the 10 virtual assistants, and then we have 5 licensed agents in Utah, and we have 4 licensed agents in California. And
Gotcha.
the virtual assistant is acting as a steroid booster to these agents and these licensed people. It's like putting NOS in a car. It makes them operate much quicker, and it's kind of like they can operate at a much greater speed.
No, so I'm guessing that's a Fast and Furious reference.
That's Fast and Furious. I mean, bro, Vin Diesel right here.
I was gonna say it's a body double. He's a stunt double.
So Vonda wants to know: are the ones that you're talking about, are they in the U.S. or are they outside of the U.S.? I mean, can you answer that a little bit? And where are they located?
You bet. So we have 2 locations: the Philippines, and then we have Colombia, which has been our hot ticket one lately because they speak Spanish first, English second. So they're speaking their first language to our Spanish clients, which is quite a few in our California office. And so either Colombia with Pablo Escobar or the Philippines.
Gotcha. And they cold call for you?
Yeah. That's the thing. Any of the quote unquote, I don't want to say dirty, but I want to say things that agents don't want to do or insurance people don't want to do, they have a heyday in. They love cold calling. They're awesome at data gathering.
Why is that? Why is that?
I don't know that. All I know is they're extremely grateful for it. Why they like it, I think this is a great opportunity for them. A lot of them, like, I don't know, there's just a lot of gratitude and not hardly any entitlement. Whatever we request of them, they do, and they keep going until we tell them to stop.
Talk about the selection process you go through and how you select the VAs.
So I'm not good at that, so I don't do that. I just use an outfit, and they take care of that. But within what they have found in the pool of virtual assistants they have, I'll look at their resumes. I'll look at a video of them communicating. I'll listen to MP3s of their accent. We have now gotten to where we know what we're looking for. It's pretty evident. A lot of them are coming, like Chase Bank's a big one. A lot of them are coming from just various companies where they were doing some kind of customer service. So they're very comfortable on the phone.
So you mentioned the ones that you're looking for. You know what you're looking for. What help somebody who's on this call and they're like, well, help me avoid the mistakes that you've made. If they're wanting to almost kind of duplicate something, what are you specifically looking for? Like, what are the traits in a VA that you're saying, I want to hire you?
So if I'm going for service type stuff, I want them to be very task oriented. We'll do some of those, what are they, like the personality tests online. I don't know if it's the DISC one, but really the things that we want on the service people is the same thing you'd be looking for with an American. Someone that is happy doing a task, excited to check things off, very thorough, very meticulous. Interestingly enough, it seems like the Filipinos are very good at service. They're more just want to get in and get things done. They don't have a high level of emotion, which is actually refreshing sometimes. And the Colombians are a little bit better for the sales stuff. They're more emotional. They're a little more flighty, but they're a little more aggressive as well. So they do very well at that.
So we're getting a lot of questions on the Facebook about how you script these out. So obviously you've talked a little bit about the factors you're looking for, but how do you control and maintain that they're making sure they're asking the right questions or asking them in the right form that you want?
I mean, I can jump right in. Do you want to see the screen that I use for that? Would that help?
Yeah.
Nick, yeah, sure. You got to share it.
All right. So we'll go a little bit out of order here, but I use this screen right here.
Oh, look at these. Look at these.
Wrong screen. Don't look at that group of heathens right there. This screen. That's my paid family that I pay.
This is a nice little shot. You found that in a frame somewhere?
Yeah, I got that at the frame store. Okay, can you guys see assisting in service right there?
Yep.
Can you present that so it's a little bigger?
You bet.
Thanks.
And we're going to do our best not to talk so that we don't take up the screen while you're talking.
Okay. See if I can get it. It's actually not letting me do that. Is that way small?
You're fine. Just talk. Just talk to us.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, from current slide. Let's see if that does better. Anyways, tech guy having tech issues. Yeah, that's real life. So right here within this, if the virtual assistant is doing anything service related, and they're going to change coverage, they would hit E right there, and then the sequence of questions on E are already done. And so I tried building something like this, but this is already done within the company that I use right here, Agency VA. They already have this done. And then for me, after proof of insurance is completed, there's an automation sequence that would then follow. If you don't have automation, which seems to be more of the agents that I communicate with that call me and ask me about Slack or about VAs, it just creates a work ticket to your email. If you have service@youragency.com or whatever you want, and that data's there. So really, kind of like when we get into a carrier site and have to answer the questions to move forward, that's how these virtual assistants are. They have to answer and ask specific questions before they can get to the next screen. So it's really a quality control measure, and it's also an efficiency element, but I didn't build that out. It was already done and taken care of for me. I just hooked it up to my agencies, plugged them right in, and went to work.
So that's the front end of Agency VA, and that's something that everybody works out of?
Yep, that's what they work out of, and it's you know, the ticker word, it's open source. So you can connect whatever you want to it, which I love. And they don't care. Whatever you want to put in, it works great.
Cool.
And so exact same thing for cells is it's a process that they've already built that I add to, and I change things all the time. Like I'll say, hey, I don't like the wording here, or I don't know why our adding cars is slow, or we're doing less than normal, and I change things all the time in there. It's real simple. I just send them an email and tell them what's up.
So let me make sure let me paint the picture correctly, and you tell me if I'm painting this right. So your role in your agency is not so much sales or marketing or all those things. What you've positioned yourself as is you've positioned yourself as a chess player, right? To where you're simply setting the tasks out and you have people who are doing them, and now you're just kind of moving things in the process, tweaking things, making sure that the automation is working, making sure that the customer experience is what it should be, and you're just kind of making sure that technology works on your side. And you're just kind of monitoring that now, correct?
Correct. I mean, it's kind of like how many computer programs or software have you used that didn't change, didn't evolve, didn't update? That's how I look at the agency. And for me, having two agencies is like split testing. I mean, I'll show the slide here in a second. Both my agencies run off entirely different softwares. They have entirely different objectives. But for me, I can look at both and position things kind of like you said. This is going to work well there. Yeah. So that's a good depiction of what I try to do.
Vonda wants to know, where do you get your cold call list so that it's scrubbed through the do not call list? How are you scrubbing that stuff so that people or how are you handling that when it comes to cold calling?
So our cold calls are people that we didn't captivate and or close. That's the data I'm going through right now. So there was 3,000 files. It's kind of a depressing fact of people that we had gathered the data, not closed.
Wow, you need to be a better salesperson.
So that's where we hung out there. If I'm training a virtual assistant and I don't think that they're quite ready to get into that data, I just go to Sales Genie or List Shack is the one I've been liking lately. It scrubs everything, and it is in its truest form cold call. And if they make 100 calls a day, which they'll do no problem to a list like that, we'll still close business because they are one call, next call. It's just you're gonna catch a fish if you keep throwing the line out. It just happens.
So I just want to take a step back because it looks like you made a pretty presentation there for us, Wes. And so I want to give you an opportunity to kind of show everyone a little bit about your agency, the two spots, and then maybe the genesis of what you really wanted to share with the IAOA crew.
You bet. Okay. go back into that. So right here, I think this visually shows the agency DNA of my two agencies that I work in. Right here, this guy, Alliance Financial Network, is located in Los Angeles. Financial Network, I mean, we got super original on the words there in the name, is located in Utah. This one focuses on property and casualty. This one does final expense and property and casualty. And final expense is excellent with virtual assistants. It does really, really well, as well as PNC. This CRM is EasyLinks. This one's Salesforce. These guys use DYL. These guys use RingCentral. For automation, these guys use Scipio. For automation right here, I'm changing it, and I've been looking at ActiveCampaign, Infusionsoft. I'm just tinkering with a couple. I don't know where we'll land there. It might be Scipio, I don't know. So each agency is entirely different. The one thing that both of them are using is virtual assistants. Everything else is different with the exception of both of them use virtual assistants. So when I say 10 virtual assistants, that's spread over 2 agencies. A little less impressive. So
personal lines or commercial lines, or what's your split?
Someday I'll learn commercial lines. I really would like to, but personal lines is appealing to me because it's very linear and it's very it's easier to scale. But I need to learn commercial lines, and I have a goal to do that.
Wes, I want you to answer something because I run into this, and I'm curious as to your take on it. I have my own opinions, but I'm kind of just curious as to what you think about this objection. When I talk to people about outsourcing or self-service or anything like that, I get met with the two same objectives on both of those categories. Talk about the concept of not hiring people in the States and you're outsourcing jobs outside of the States. Talk about that. People seem to be very, and I don't fault them, but people seem to be very passionate about when they object to outsourcing. Very passionate about outsourcing jobs that should go to people here outside of the country. From an ideal standpoint, can you address that?
You bet I can. So I normally wear an American flag hat. I normally have my American flag with me. I'm as American as it gets. I want people in the country that I'm from to do very, very well. The truth that I found, which maybe isn't everybody else's truth, but the truth for me was some of the things within insurance agencies Americans weren't excited to do. And if they did, they would do it for a season. It was very minimal, but they wanted raises as they should get, and they wanted to start doing other tasks. But it didn't change the fact that there was so many tasks within the agencies that needed to get done. And so I found myself either paying someone $17 an hour to do some data entry, of which they're going to get burnt out. I can't blame them. And it's not efficient for me as a business owner to pay them that amount of money for a task they hate,
plus
that they
taxes,
kind of have a bad attitude, less taxes. I mean, there were a number of reasons, but really within the virtual assistant world, that the first thing that is exciting is they're grateful to be doing those things, and they will stay. They don't move. They're there to stay.
You've articulated it in a much nicer way than I've ever articulated it. I tell people, look, as much as I want to feed the guy's family from Flint, Michigan, I'd really like to feed my family and my employees' families. And so, I'm going to pay somebody else a fraction of what I would pay them. I mean, in our setup, what I pay for outsourcing automation software is what it would cost me to pay for one part-time employee. And I mean, I love the concept of hiring only Americans. And I would, if number one, I could find them, which you addressed, and two, that it didn't cost me 5 to 6 to 7 times more to do that.
Well, and what's been interesting is our Americans are making more money, and really the morale is a lot better within each agency because they're not doing the things that they hated. And so that was kind of a shift that I had to steer. I'm not a chess player. You said chess player. But as someone that was setting this up, I had to say, this isn't going to take your job, but rather help you make more money and allow you to do the things that you're good at. Be creative, use your other skill sets, not just your ability to data and enter a quote.
Right.
You don't do that anymore. I don't want you doing that. I want you to meet with referral sources. I want you to find ways to drive more business into the agency, to put more money into your pocket. So there was an element of a buy-in with my staff. The service people bought in immediately. Once they had less time on the phone, they were in love. The salespeople, they were a little more competitive, and they thought that the virtual assistant was taking their job. As soon as one person started getting a sell that was attributed because of the efforts of the virtual assistant, it caught like wildfire. And this is a true story. Like this just happened, and it maybe sounds far-fetched, but we had an agent that we were paying hourly, and he had a commission element. He only now does virtual assistants. He doesn't, that's all he likes to do, is he just hangs out and waits for them to live transfer. And he approached us and asked us if he could go commission only. He saw that he would make more money, and I love that. I'm like, yeah, if you want to take the risk on yourself, you bet. And so we still feed him with the virtual assistants on the live transfers, but he's now commission only. I love it.
Let me hit you with another thing that I hear often, and I think it's more prevalent too when it comes to using virtual assistants. And so I want you to kind of answer this objection, or give me your spin on it. People will say, well, Nick or Wes or whoever, what about the agent and that personal touch? And, if you're having your VA do the cold calling, do all the asking all the questions, getting and all the agent is really doing is, closing the deal. Are they losing that personal touch with the clients? And are you seeing that on the back end with retention or building kind of relationships with your clients?
So my take on that is controlling what the virtual assistant is doing. If me, you, or Adam are all adding a car to an objective client, we're all adding a car, gathering data, the VIN number, the driver's license number, the steps necessary to add a car. As cool as you are, Nick, I don't think that they're going to stay around and be excited about future business because you did it different than me.
Yeah, no, I'm with you 100%. My take on it is it's not personal. Personal touch is not making sure that I have your 17 alphanumeric VIN number correct. And if it is, then we really need to redefine what personal touch is. It's it's making sure that I'm in that trusted advisor role, and we're asking the right questions, and we're managing the process in a way that it needs to be managed, and that you're happy with the end result. If you need to hear my voice, or if you need to get an email specifically from me that I physically typed out, then I really think we need to redefine personal touch, because I just don't think that's feasible to maintain.
Well, and unfortunately, I think the blunt truth is, I think there's a lot of people in the insurance world, good, bad, or indifferent, that they overvalue their personal touch. I think personal touch is wonderful. What I'm finding with personal touch, like especially on the service side, our service people are way more happy when they get on the phone and they're calling when the changes happened, but not dealing with the data entry of that change part. But they'll call back because they now have time and say, hey, we added your vehicle here to Allstate. Here's the deal of the change. And they're striking conversation. They're not worried about, while they're talking to that individual client, that 3 other calls are going to be bombarding them. They know that's handled, that's taken care of. And our personal touch has been way better. And I did something for a quality control standpoint, because I had concerns about accents with virtual assistants. I had concerns about
and Vanna's got she's got that, and Travis has mentioned it too. So touch on this in this answer. She wants to know, her thing is, if she's in the Midwest and somebody from another country calls her and she hears an accent, she's immediately, almost, if I'm hearing you right, Vonna, almost kind of discarding that and hanging up. I mean, talk about that.
So surprisingly enough, the tasks that we have them doing, there's not many people that are upset about their accent. I mean, they're not calling them and explaining why they should have replacement cost over actual cash value. I mean, that's something a licensed person should do. That should have a very personal touch. In the event that someone does get upset, we are very clear with our virtual assistants. You live transfer to one of our Americans, someone within the agency. You live transfer immediately, and they do. And so if that happens, if someone starts saying, hey, I just want to talk to Wes. I just want to talk to Wes. These guys aren't like your stereotypical gatekeeper that would do anything to shield it. They just hit the whatever it is on the phone, extension 106, and they send it right over to me. I mean, that's how they're trained. And so we have not had many people upset about their accents. And it's something that I check after every transaction that takes place in our agency. We have a text that goes out that says, like, Nick, if you were adding a car, hey, Nick, I saw that your file was worked on. Is there anything else that we can do? And what that does is it opens up the keyboard crusader in every single American today that would love to tell you how they feel from their keyboard, and they tell you. And we thought it was going to be negative, maybe upset about accents, maybe upset about this and that. It's more positive. And I'm able to take the positive text that they return, and I can tell my American staff that's now happier, look, Amy, I think you're cool. I think you're wonderful. But look what Nick thinks, our client here. Look what they're saying about you. And I can specifically drill down, because I get the text every day. I can drill down and ask the accent question, ask the question about the specific person that handled that file. And people are honest with me over text.
Yeah.
And I take that to the person.
So talk about a little bit, because it's really interesting. What kind of quality control and what level of control are you able to have, or feedback are you able to give those VAs over, and what does that look like? Like, how you talked about it a little bit, talking about to your local customer service staff, but what does that look like when you're now talking to someone in Colombia and saying, look, this is where we ran into a problem? And then also, how are you vetting that on the front end before you're putting money behind this person to make sure that they're the right selection for them? Like, how are you quality controlling them throughout this process and this relationship?
So with technology today, you know, one of the things that we do that's really effective is on the training aspect. We'll open up a Google Hangouts with our best service person, and that Hangouts has a camera directly on them. All of the things they say, all their facial expressions, it is on that camera. And the virtual assistant is listening, can see the mannerisms, can listen to what's going on, and they can see this is how Financial Network treats its people. This is what they do. In the event that something goes south, I mean, here's just a blunt truth. I don't know if this is what you're looking for. If I go to an American and communicate something that they've done poorly, oh my gosh, like, I have in the back of my head, are they going to sue me? Did I just say something rude? Like, what's going to happen here, especially if I'm in freaking California? But if I go to a virtual assistant, I can just be very straight. It takes me so much less time. And not only are they not offended and or showing they're not offended, they come back with solutions. And it's just very different when someone wants to do the work. They really want to be there. They're fighting for that job. They don't have to be there. They want to. So it's just a total different shift. I mean, our Americans love our virtual assistants because of that feel of, they love it. I mean, it was like a spark into the agencies because we had people happy, excited about insurance.
So are you listening to those calls? Are you then having circle back messages saying, here's what one of your calls, listen to it with us, and then this is what I want you to change. This is what I want to improve. This is really good. Talk about that kind of review process.
Yes, every day, whether it's me or whether it's someone on the team, every call is recorded. And so they will go over with the virtual assistant a call that they did well and a call that they did poorly. And then we also have whoever is running that training do the same for them. So they do a call that they think they did well and a call that they think they did poorly. And so they go through and they dissect it. It's a 10-minute exercise at the starting of the day. And I like it by video. Again, it's a Google Hangouts thing within our Slack. I love it. I mean, I love doing it with my team because I love to hear, you know, them talk about the call that I did. It can be an uncomfortable position for some people, but after they do it 5-6 times, it's just what happens when you come in for the day. And that really helps our quality control. Everyone can kind of feel he is the best at sales. she is the best at customer service. Let's hear these all-stars. What are they doing different, than the others?
And what programs are you using to kind of record those calls? Are you using actual automation, or is it something built in with the service that you're tapped into?
Both my VoIPs record, both DYL and Ring Central record the phone calls. And then within Slack, that's where, good grief, that's a whole nother conversation. But within Slack, that's where all the organism of our agency is evolving. That's where everything's happening. Everyone's talking, everyone's real with each other. And inside Slack, we do a lot of video with Hangouts. So in Slack, they type in one word and it pulls up a Hangouts, because gosh, if I have them open up another program, heaven forbid I do that. That causes all kind of grief. But if they can go in and hit one button and it opens up the video call, and they can screen share and they can do everything, everyone does it. They do it on their phones, they do it on their tablets, their computers. That's how we have it working.
How many what do you envision scaling this to in your agency? So you have 10 now. Where do you foresee yourself? What's next on the horizon, and how else do you plan to utilize virtual assistants in other tasks?
That's like my favorite thing that I'm doing right now, is finding different ways to utilize them and leverage their skill set, which is entirely different than Americans. So I see a strong emphasis and focus with my virtual assistant calling referral partners and setting up appointments for our people that used to be doing data entry to now go and meet those referral partners. More interaction. Again, I don't want to bring them to my office. I don't think they want to be at my office. We want to go to theirs, and we can go to theirs now if a lot of the tasks that we're taking 70% of our day are being completed. A lot of those linear, monotonous, repetitive tasks, we can get out more, see the sunshine a little bit.
In Utah?
Yeah, there's sun here. It's pretty cool.
It's kind of interesting because I think Nick and obviously Wes are kind of they're using it. I think I'm a little more skeptical, so I'm going to take it back because I have a question about your QC system. Are you randomly selecting these things to listen to, or are you just cherry picking, or are you looking for those responses from your automated feedback to say, hey, this was a really good experience or a really bad experience, to drive you on what you're looking at?
It's two separate things. I separate that. So the automation things, everyone can see everyone's text. Everyone can see what's happening within the agency. So they already can see that coming. Like if it's good or if it's bad, they know that I saw. I know that they saw. So that is that's a different quality control measure. And really, people, when they think about that, and even when I set it up, I got to be honest, I set it up thinking that there would be negative things that would happen, and it would be easier for me to print that out and go talk to someone rather than them thinking I was just a huge jerk. But it's been way more positive. When I've given the client time to interact, it's been positive. And the times that it's negative, it's very point, it's very blunt. It happens real quick. And so it's like pulling the Band-Aid off at a much faster rate. But the calls they are cherry picked. I know from clients past and looking at the data, things I'll look on is how much time did they speak to client X. I know that client either loves the talk or they're maybe more challenging. So those are the ones I look at, the ones that are calling more repetitively, or if I can look at difference in a pattern of the amount of time on the call, I check that out. So, but within our Slack, people are communicating, oh, I'm dealing with such and such right now. Does anyone have anything that they can help me with? And so I know that's something I got to look at.
And in the program, are they telling you, hey, this call was for this service reason, or this call was a cold call? Like, are they identifying for you the purpose of the call so that you can look at it and say, why was it on there for 4 minutes? Why were they on there for 5.5 minutes?
Well, I separate the virtual assistant contingent upon if they're doing service or sales, so they don't mix. The ones that do service, or I switch I've done this too, which works really well. I'll do half their day service, half their day sales. And so I know I do that a lot actually, to kind of keep them trying different things. But ultimately they end up finding what they love, and that's where they end up. But at first couple months, they'll do some service and they'll do some sales. So it's easy to kind of monitor that. Like I know it's only 10 people. I know who's working here and who's working there. And that's what I focus on. That's what the trainings are on. That's what we talk about. That's what we go over.
You made a nice little PowerPoint there. I know you slaved hours over that PowerPoint. It looks very professional. So can you what else do you have there, Wes, that we're not hitting on? And you're like, man, when it comes to VAs, this is what we have to talk about.
I mean, I think the big thing when it comes to service and virtual assistants, one of the issues, so people will call me from the IAOA group, and for whatever reason, without me asking, they'll tell me all their issues and concerns with virtual assistants right at the starting of the conversation, which is great. One of the big ones I get is, I'm only not doing it because I don't have the process. It all makes sense to me, but I don't have the process. Well, Agency VA did that process, so don't let that be something that stops you. It's there, evolve it, make it better, but get going. You know, get it, try it, experiment a little bit with it.
Address that from some. I mean, there's a lot of people in our group, and there's a lot of people on this video, and they're 1 or 2 man shops. They're scratch agents. Every penny that they have, it's not necessarily that they don't have the processes. I think that's important, and that's a legitimate thing. I mean, if you don't have good processes, that's a whole different animal that you got to tackle. But you have somebody, and I'll use Adam as a good example, right? Adam,
that's exactly me.
Adam is in his 2nd year, right? He's in a place that every scratch agency owner has been in, and he's killing himself for the first couple of years. And I'm sure in a perfect world, he'd like to free up some time so that he could do different things. But, you know, and I understand that it's more cost effective to hire a VA, but you know, somebody like Wes, like where does Adam need to start out as a scratch agency owner in his 2nd year, trying not to kill himself, working 14, 15, 16-hour days?
So Adam specifically, I don't know, Adam, if it was months ago or weeks ago, all the days seem to bleed together. He asked me this question point blank.
Yep.
And asking about himself and his agency. And when he asked it, I didn't know the answer. And I've thought about it a lot since then. So to the 1-man shops of the world, first, keep on fighting, baby. That's awesome. Like that's awesome. Second, I think a virtual assistant, if I start the game over again, which I'm not going to do, I've done it twice with 2 agencies, not going to do it ever again. If I started the game over again, I would hire a virtual assistant before I would hire another position, and I would have the virtual assistant have me act kind of like an octopus and be able to have more arms to do more things. And then the next person that I brought in, I would know my virtual assistant is going to feed you. So if I'm looking for sales, like you're not going to have to hunt as much. I just want you have got a great personality, you know the American culture well, you're learning these systems well, come in and go to work, but he's going to have live transfers for you. If I'm bringing it on from the service element, I want to get my service person in there, but I want them to know, look, all the data gathering, all of the collecting of VIN numbers, that's already done for you. You come in and evolve who you are. So I think for 1-man shops, it does work fine, but they need to understand that just like hiring an American, if you don't put any into the relationship with the virtual assistant, it's not going to go anywhere. It's the same conceptually. There's such a line drawn between a virtual assistant and an American, but they're doing a lot of the same things. One, you're just paying a lot more for.
Yeah. And so to that point, you know, Travis has a good question. We've got some other questions ahead of him that we'll get to, but just on that note, you know, Travis is asking the question, what should somebody expect commitment wise, you know, cost wise, and what kind of cost commitment should someone like Adam, right? So take it from someone who's been in business for, you know, they're in their 1 to 3 years. They're not at that place where they have a ton of, you know, agency cash flow coming in, or, you know, they just want to hire 1 or 2 people to take care of some of the tasks that frees them up a little bit. What are we looking at for cost commitment on average?
Okay. Can you see the slide that I just shared?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. So this is so hyperinflated because LA is crazy. And part of the LA has this $15 an hour. I mean, I know that each area could be 10, could be 7 per hour, whatever it is. This is just running the numbers for Los Angeles, and why it really quickly made sense for us is, oh, there we go, stay there. This would be the yearly if you're paying them $15 an hour. These were the taxes that we were seeing. This was the work comp expense. These were our office expenses. So we were right about close to $40,000 for a $15 an hour person. That's not including the risk and the concern that I have if they want to file for unemployment and or feel offended at my office. Like, there's a lot more inherent risks right here.
Or days off, or sick days, or
days off, sick days, whatever. Great. Like, that's fine. Whatever they want to do. The virtual assistant, it's just flat. The ones that I'm using are this amount right here. It's a flat amount. It pulls out of my credit card. I get credit card points. It's excellent. That ends up being the yearly cost, and it's a difference for me, apples to apples, of $17,000. But this guy right here, I mean, the money is great, but this guy right here, he's going to grow out of the tasks that this virtual assistant is going to happily do. And this person, I start him at minimum wage, but he doesn't want to stay there. He's going to want the 50-cent or dollar raise or whatever it may be, and he's going to want to discontinue doing those tasks.
Does your VA do they work 24 hours a day?
I don't have them doing 24 yet. I have some that start, 9 to 4, whatever it is. I have some that start 11 after for sales stuff. I haven't got to the 24 hours. We will do that. That is going to happen. Another thing that I can accomplish with the virtual assistant. So someone gets the voice, they get everything that the independent agent wants to provide to them, but I can't get an American to stay up all night, And
is that virtual assistant cost? Is that a full-time thing or is that a part-time thing?
This one's full-time right here. So that's all full-time. That's 40 hours. These are full-time numbers. So if you went part-time, you would half that. So yeah, this is full-time, no concerns. And hey, look, if this virtual assistant isn't a great fit for my office, the Stromso hire slow and fire fast, I can fire pretty fast. And I can get another one in there that's working. I don't want to sound like a huge jerk because, again, I love America. I love Americans. I want my team to do better because of the virtual assistant.
Yeah, and what I've noticed too using VAs is the work that one VA can do, even part-time, is the equivalent of what somebody here would do with full-time and overtime half the time. They're just a much more efficient. So even if you pay someone part-time, it's almost like you're getting full-time efficiency out of them.
Correct. At the tasks that you didn't want to do or you didn't want your staff to do. And here's the craziest thing. You go to a lender, they have a processor. You go to a doctor, they have a nurse. You go to an insurance guy, he's the insurance guy. I don't know why the insurance guy thinks he needs to own and do everything. They're great at it. I love insurance guys. But all these other professions have people specializing on tasks before it gets to the great skill set, the great show, visiting your doctor, nurse, then you got your doctor. I just don't know why insurance is so disconnected with that. I know the economies of scale and the percentages, I get all that, but more than that, like every time someone quotes that's an agency owner or someone is data gathering, they're paying themselves and valuating themselves at a $10 an hour rate if someone $10 an hour can do that task.
Right, and just like a good CPA, I mean, a good virtual assistant probably pays for itself. If you have a good virtual assistant that's freeing you up to do the task, and they're doing things like live transfers, or they're freeing you up 4, 5, 6 hours a week to where now you can go meet with referral sources, prospect new business, if that's the stuff that you want to do. Like any good employee should pay for themselves. A good virtual assistant should more than pay for themselves, right? At that rate.
When I looked at the numbers, everything in the insurance world that baffled my mind is, hey, Wes, I hope I make my money back at month 26. I hope that we see this at month 18. With the virtual assistant, I can see that I made my money back in month 1. I can see that the steroid shot, my guy went from selling X amount of households, it increased because he stopped doing X, Y, and Z. He was doing what he's good at. And so it is one of the things I love about it in the insurance world, rather than waiting for something to happen and hoping, you know, the beautiful residual dollar everyone discusses, which is beautiful. It happens immediately. I mean, it can be quantified. You can say, if I'm no longer adding the data for 10 quotes, I can now be doing this. I mean, it's easy to partition it out.
So Wes, I want to jump in really quickly, and I just want to, from a very granular sense, understand exactly the roles. And so the people in this, because I think one of the trends I'm seeing on Facebook is that a lot of people are trying to understand the roles that you're having them do. And so I'm going to do it kind of in a rapid fire way. Are your VAs handling inbound calls?
Yes.
Are they handling outbound? Are they making outbound calls?
Yes.
Okay. Are your VAs, they're handling service?
Service items. Again, it's
items.
very task specific, but yes.
Okay, and they're handling sales data entry, but not the actual binding or reviewing or discussion of actual coverages, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And so one of the things that as a scratch agency is like, man, this, you know, one of the time sucks I have is the constant inbound calls. So when your VAs give an inbound call, what are you instructing them to do, and what does that look like from call to transfer? Or just in their daily occurrence. And then if the transfers, like you talked about the 24-hour thing, or, you know, if you're a scratch agent and you're in the middle of a meeting with a referral source, what are they doing with that call? And can you walk us through what that process looks like?
Yeah, and I wish I had the software actually open so you could actually just see it live. But call comes in. Can you see my screen right here? Billing,
yeah, we can see it.
Letter. Call comes in, and they're asked, hey, I need a proof of insurance, or the one that happens the most. I need to add a car. Okay, you need to add a car. The virtual assistant then hits F right there. It's by F. And then every single question and or piece of data that could ever be required to add a car, and that's different for each carrier. So we're always having to add this, and this changes. They go through and they ask those questions. And the exact conceptually, if you think in your head, every time you go through a quote, and Safeco has the way they do it, MetLife has the way they do it, but ultimately no one lets you move forward until you get all the data. Same concept. All the data is inputted, and then when they submit that work ticket, in the case of someone that doesn't have automation, there is now an email that has all that data that a licensed individual is going to go over that data, make sure everything's accurate before they process it and hit the submit button. So
are they dropping that? Are they dropping it into your AMS or your CRM? Are they dropping it into an email, or are they given a form to fill out? So that I guess that's, again, a little granular, but to understand kind of the complexity of the process, is it going to just flow right through to your AMS, or is it giving an email and then there's duplicate entry?
There is duplicate entry right now, so it goes in, but that can be done by the virtual assistant. So right now it goes into the work queue. And then the work queue sends that email that creates that work ticket, and then that can then be inputted accordingly. If you have automation, so that's if you don't have automation. If you have automation, our stuff is happening, and when they do the add a car, that does the automation sequence for adding a car, and it follows up with the text, the pre-recorded voicemail, whatever we have set up in place.
So on a sales call though, so you get a call, someone says, hey, I'm interested, and they go to your VA. I assume you have a similar sales kind of prompt that would walk them through it and at least collect the data about their data, and then you hand them over to someone who could advise them. How is that flowing through again to the AMS? Is that getting put in, or is your salesperson getting an email saying, here's all the data from that contact?
So in my experimenting and trying the different softwares for the different agencies, one of the things I did yesterday for this is I got on a call. They live transferred. Well, actually, this was an interesting one. The individual wouldn't speak to anyone but me. So that's how the cell started. So I started the call and I said, hey, his name was Brent. Hey, Brent, excited to work with you. I have someone from my office that is going to ask you the questions so I can find the discounts of whatever carrier is going to serve you best. Is it okay if I transfer you to them right now to ask you your VIN number, your driver's license number, etc.? So I transferred, and this was just experimenting yesterday. I transferred to the virtual assistant who filled out a form that was on our site that went into our rater. So it went directly into our rater. So they asked the questions similar to what you're seeing on your screen. They did all the data entry. By the time it came back to me, because they wouldn't work with anybody else. I then was able to have all VINs, all driver's license numbers, and then go in and these guys ended up doing, I think it was State Auto, sell the policy. When I followed up and asked that guy, hey, was there a huge disconnect when I send it over to Christy to gather your data? And he's like, no, why? And I was like, did you lose any value because it wasn't me that was gathering your VIN and getting your driver's license number? And he said, no. And I said, did you have any questions to her about your coverage that she couldn't answer? And he did. He said, yeah, but she told me I could go right to you right now if I needed to. He's like, I just want to know the difference between full coverage and liability. But he said, as soon as she answered, no, I can get you to Wes, or I can just input this data and then he can call you back with it. He's like, I was fine. I knew you were going to get back to me, and I knew I was fine. So again, the valuation that an individual has on an agent or an agency owner versus someone else gathering data isn't anything you have to be super flashy about. It's data gathering. I already BS'd with him and sold and developed the rapport. I already did all that stuff at the starting. Then we went right into the nitty-gritty, and that's where the virtual assistant did that.
What do they handle if someone's available for a live transfer? What are you? You're a scratch agency. You just they drop you into your voicemail.
Yep. I mean that. So they'll say on Slack, hey, can anyone take this? Right now we got, I'm 30 seconds away from dropping John Smith. If there's no one there grabbing it, then the virtual assistant can then say, hey, our individual that's going to review this and see if we can qualify you for further discounts, I'm going to send you to his extension. If he's not there, he'll call right back. So that has happened. That does happen. But someone's invested all this time with the virtual assistant inputting that data. Our connecting calls are pretty high.
So Steve brings up a pretty good question here. And if you have more questions, ask them in the event page on the post for questions. But he wants to know, and I'll just read it verbatim. Why doesn't the VA log into the company website and complete the car edition? Then a task can be created for me to review.
My answer to that is because we have enough efficiencies and enough valuation on the things that we have them doing. I am working right now to make sure that is entirely on the up and up. And for my agency, I haven't both figured that part out yet and made sure it was okay. But they have enough value that if I didn't do that, I'd be fine. But I want to evolve and do that. I want to get there. Right now, they don't have any access to our carriers. Ours don't.
One thing that I get asked a lot, and I'll address it here because I know if it doesn't become a question yet, it will become a question as soon as we are done recording this. People will ask the question regarding E&O. And so I'll address that. And we can probably Adam is probably more well-versed to answer some of these questions than I am. But I get asked all the time about virtual assistants, and they ask, well, what about your E&O? And we just renewed our E&O policy in February 1st was our X date. And I use Angela over at US E&O.
Take a note, everyone. Sell Nick in January, his E&O policy, right?
Hey, so you go for it. So I asked Angela, and if she's watching this, Angela, you feel free to correct me if I have any of this wrong. We were told per our policy. Now, we have all insurance agents here on the call. We all hopefully understand that not every policy is written the same. So perhaps consult with your E&O carrier on your E&O policy. And if you need to reshop your E&O, you reshop it. But we were told on ours that we had to have somebody in the office reviewing and doing quality control. So our process is that we have more of a self-service model. So we're having our clients do the data input, and then our VAs are just doing the clerical work and doing that on the carrier side. But I know was trying to shield you, Wes, from this question, and I was trying to just take it head on. But maybe Adam, you have something a little bit more to say from more of a legal standpoint of E&O coverage and utilizing people offshore.
Yeah. All I would say to everyone in this group is that every state is different for your standards, and it's important to be mindful of that. And most states, DOIs, and I mean DOI, Department of Insurance, has a hotline that you can call and ask these specific questions to. And I would just defer to that and refer to the date you called and the time you called and who you talked to, and take notes on that so you can show you did some level of diligence about the responsibility levels. And then I would agree with Nick about talking to your carrier, but even more so, I would agree to seek out an attorney who does that. And there are attorneys that will specialize in your state. So that's the disclaimer I would give to you, is don't rely necessarily on anyone because an attorney, because even the E&O carriers and we as agents ourselves, I don't want to give out coverage questions or answers necessarily when I sell a policy, because what happens if some attorney decides to deny or some carrier decides to deny and then wins? So that's just my probably 7 cents. It was a long-winded answer, but things to know, things to remember.
Ryan wants to know, and Wessly, you talk a lot about agency VA. There's a lot of outfits out there that do this, but since you're talking about agency VA and people are seeing what agency VA looks like and does, there's some interest here. Where can somebody get more information on them?
Here, I can share the screen. Actually, I'll be fancy.
I think it's just agencyva.com.
It is. It's agencyva.com. You should be seeing it as I'm yapping onto the screen. So I pulled up their website.
There it is.
You've seen it. There you go.
Yep.
I'll stop sharing now.
And so, yeah, what I liked about them and their process is after you register, you get to see your virtual assistant. I mean, you're selecting your team member. You're selecting someone that is going to be a part of your office culture. So you get to see that virtual assistant. You get to hear them. And again, I had a guy call me and he said, "Hey, Wes, I've got an insurance outfit," and I can't remember what the other thing was he did. I don't know, auto body. I don't know what it was. I got an auto body thing. Can I have my virtual assistant do both? I'm like, bro, have your virtual assistant do what you want. That's your team member. They're working with you.
I would have them do my laundry if I could.
Yeah.
The shipping would kill you. It'd just be absolutely brutal.
So yeah, I mean, they're a part of your team, and with the selection process of agency VA, you can go in, watch the video on them, make sure they're fitting well. Further, the software that they use, I think it just comes standard and free when you get your VA. The screen that I shared you guys that had the different letters, I think that just comes standard. I'm almost certain that does. And so your process is already built out. You find your VA. They do a lot of the legwork. I have done it before, and there are all kinds of great outfits out there. I have done it before without going to an outfit. So in my time since 2015, I've done that. To spare you a lot of pain and grief, don't do that.
So you're saying avoid the Craigslist route, avoid the Fiverr route, avoid that, and actually whether it's agency VA, I know Marble Box gets a lot of shine. Whether it's another utilize somebody that has this as a company. Go through an outfit and company. Don't hire somebody off of Craigslist, is what you're saying.
Yeah. The last guy I hired off of Craigslist, I mean, I woke up and didn't have a kidney, so I learned my lesson pretty quickly. So I mean, that's about how painful it was to do it outside of an outfit. I mean, it was pretty bad. So I wouldn't advise that. Find the outfit that best suits your operation and your culture, and run with it. Jump with it and get it going.
Is there a particular reason that you chose an outfit out of the Philippines and not out of, say, India or another country that has English as a language?
How long you want this answer?
30 seconds.
Look, for us, when we asked our client base what kind of accents they had the most issues with, number one was India. They didn't love that. Now, Wes, again, even though I have my American flag and love Americans, I love people from all over the world. I'm great. But my client base and my book of business did not. They were okay with Spanish, so learning English and that type of accent. which would be the Colombians. And again, the Spanish speakers are in heaven because it's the first language. You know, the VA is speaking the first language to that client. The other person in our office that spoke Spanish was this fat bearded white boy. And so it all fell to me. So I love that. The Filipinos, their accent, I mean, you can hear it. It's there. But make sure when you're selecting your virtual assistant that you choose one that doesn't have a thick one. I mean, that's kind of you, unless they're doing things behind the scenes where the accent doesn't matter, which there is plenty of stuff in insurance that you can pay someone $10 an hour and be off the phone and still make your money back.
I utilize the VAs to pull reports, to do commission reconciliations, to give me data, to clean up my management system. There's lots of things that they're not forward customer facing at all. That if you are waking up, and I'll just say this, and this is more commentary, and I've done a lot of that on this call. But if you are waking up and going to your office and going to work, thinking about the reports you have to clean up, thinking about the data that you have to input, thinking about the clerical tasks, then I mean that's just not a very good place, in my opinion. That's just not where you as a business owner should be. I mean, why are you doing these things? Why?
Look, if it's a $10 an hour task, have someone that is being paid $10 an hour do it. And you know, everything you just said, Nick, is those are things that someone else can do. And guess what? They can be better than you at that. And you can focus on your videos and your YouTube and your automation, and that's where your head's at. And you've eliminated yourself, and your mind is more clear. You've eliminated yourself from, oh man, you know, freaking adding a VIN number. How hard is it to know all those numbers? Like doing that, and oh, good grief. Like I only have so much brain power.
Which
so
is,
I want to use.
Yeah, we know.
I mean, it's a lot. It's excessive.
Not even a half can hold it. Look at that thing; it's stretched out. So, Wes, one of the things I left a phone call with when we had our phone call a couple of weeks back is you actually are also able to change the name and somewhat identity too of your VA, right? So if you have the voice as a timbre of a Kate, but he's really a Ken, you can say you're going by Kate on my phone calls, and they'll commit to that role, right?
Yes, and can you do shout outs on this thing?
Yeah,
Sure.
Okay, I'm gonna do a shout out. Preston Schmiedley, love with all my heart. He has a Marvin that goes by a Kate. And if you ever listened to Marvin communicate, you would think you were speaking to Kate. You would not think that there was a Marvin on the other line.
Well, I don't know. You brought up LA, so I mean, that's probably not too different in LA either. So I mean, I don't know.
So they have names like, Pillbong or something like that, and we say, "You are Liz." You know, that's easier for our Americans to communicate and to say, and it's not offensive to them. They're fine. When you're on the phone, you're Liz or you're Mike. Yeah, that's that. That is what we do, and it works really, really well.
Have you ever met one of your VAs in person?
Great question. I love that. Yes, they had one from Colombia that was in Murray, Utah, and they have them in Colombia because they're piloting. In Murray, Utah, which is right up the road from me. They're piloting a program to get him licensed and to get that set up. So I got to sit down and meet him. Oh my gosh. Again, back to the same thing I feel every day I talk with him. Grateful, excited, happy. It's that spark in the agency. At first it is a little timid, but this dude, it was so happy to be here, and went to lunch with him. And yeah, so I have met one. The rest have all been on video. But he actually had an English name. His name was David. David is awesome. Big fan of David.
Do you send and I'm just curious as to part of the relationship, do you send them like Christmas bonuses or gifts or remember on their birthday, or do you do anything extra?
Wes is a big that. He doesn't do any of that stuff.
Jerk store
I mean,
calls,
if it's Nick Ayers, I send him anthrax in the mail. If anybody else, yeah, my virtual assistants, yeah, man, they're a happy part of our team. They're something we love. New headsets. Do you know how grateful someone is when you send them?
That's a good question. So are you sending them their equipment, their computer, their phone? Are you sending them all their stuff?
I don't have to, because Agency VA does that and takes care of it. But like for a gift, and to make them be more efficient, I'll send them a better headset or something that they're looking at. I'll spend the $20-$30, and I'm telling you, they go crazy. They're so grateful. Right now, we're working together a package to get another screen for one of our virtual assistants. We're putting in, I can't remember what else they wanted, but our service team is making them a package, and they came up with that idea because they love their VA so much. Like, they were the one pushing me for it. I will fund that all day long. I will put money into something like that all day long.
Travis asked a question on the Facebook page, and it's interesting thought of whether you would, or have you ever considered getting one license, like actually putting in the investment, either maybe bringing them here to do it, or just simply having them do something online and then taking the test if it's possible to actually, or just flying them in for the test if you would, like a day, to get them licensed and then allow them to actually do the work overseas. Has that been thought about or even considered?
So one of my things is I went to the different outfits and looked at the VA outfits. I wanted to know what's the origin of those that are running it. And one of the things that I enjoy and like about Agency VA is one of the owners was in insurance software for like a decade. So he's very well versed in there. And the other had an agency that's Jake from State Farm. They had a State Farm. And so in their head, they know the world well. They're forward thinking and want to make that happen. I would give anything to have one of my virtual assistants get licensed. If I don't know how to do it yet, I'm hoping they figure that out. But yes, I want that. I think that would be wonderful because I have someone in another country that has a skill set, a licensing. I just don't know how that'll work. I don't know that yet. But do I want that? Yes.
Do you think that would create a tension between your agents? Because it seems like right now they're feeling that they're kind of feeding them. Do you think that would challenge them a little bit on the sales front?
No, because I think that I could take more off my agent's plate that they don't want to do. I mean, I could do more of the stuff that they're griping to me about.
Sean Moody, we never got to Sean's question. He wants to know, when you are dealing with the VAs, are you dealing with them directly? Since you're dealing with Agency VA, are you dealing with the VA directly, or are you dealing with kind of like a boss, or how is that hierarchy of communication working?
Both. So there's a manager associated with my file that works with me on the performance of my virtual assistants. So I work with her. But ultimately, every single day, I'm working with the virtual assistant that's part of my team. Again, I think this kind of like nails it home for them. They have an extension in my VoIP phone. They are a part of my team. I mean, if I'm not doing a Google Hangouts or something video, I hit the extension and talk to them. The same as I would, because I'm so lazy, the person in the office next to me. I mean, it's the same thing. They're a part of my team.
I would agree with the laziness for sure.
Actually, Janine Fixmer sent me a question. She jumped the line, as you do, and texted it to me directly. Janine, we're not going to call you out too bad, but do you have them taking down personally identifiable information like social security numbers, addresses, driver's licenses? Are they touching that part of it? I
don't have them touching social securities because I don't ask that question because my clients hate that question. So I just avoid it altogether. Do they verify other data? Yes, they do.
Payment information?
Huh?
Payment information?
I haven't gotten that figured out yet. I want to. I haven't done it yet. I want to. So that'll be the next thing. I mean, we're evolving, and when we evolve the virtual assistant front of our agencies, it's first clearing that everything is right and well with the law and the E&O and the DOI and all the acronyms, and then we do it. But I'm not in a rush because everything's working the way that we have it, and we're profitable, and it's putting more money in the pocket of my team and putting more money into the agency. So I will get there. That will happen if that's okay. I got to figure all that stuff out.
Mind blown.
I think we've got a lot of questions live. And I think we did a pretty good job of answering them. I don't know if we have much more. I know you have things to go. We've been on this call for an hour and 15 minutes. I'll just, maybe say this in closing. Maybe you can give some closing thoughts, Wes. I mean, I think that outsourcing and offshoring and figuring out ways to increase the margin in your agency, that's not going anywhere. And if anything, it's only going to get more prevalent. It's only going to get bigger. It's only going to get stronger. There's only going to be more people doing it. I mean, the companies that were so afraid, I've had this discussion too, live or with people in IAOA is, when it comes back to the, hiring in America question, the companies that you're doing business with, that you're wanting to retain that business here, they're more than likely outsourcing that anyways. And with the way that carriers are almost treating agents nowadays, and carriers are reducing commissions and margins are getting slimmer and the cost of living increases. I really think that if you're not looking at this, I think you're really doing yourself kind of a disservice, and really you're I don't want to say shooting yourself in the foot. I think that's too much hyperbole, but I just think that it's just too smart not to look at. What are your closing thoughts on that?
My closing thoughts are, take a look at who's going to be taking over our agencies and working in our agencies. I don't have many of I can now say the younger generation coming up that want to get on the phone and grab VINs all day long. They won't do that. They don't want to do that. However, they have bright minds to do other things. Mm-hmm. They have things that I could never imagine with social media that I would never believe possible. Their minds can do that. So my goal in the wave that's coming in the insurance world is I want to be prepared for the stuff in the trenches that this next group doesn't want to do. I want to make it so the location, when they come and work for our agencies, that it is an environment that they want to do, that they're excited about, that it's not, I have to do 50 cold calls until I can start selling insurance. I just think that the trend of what's coming up the pipeline, insurance is already not a super pretty thing. We can make it prettier by having some of the tasks that we know need to be done by people that really want to do it, and make our team in America that much more efficient, that much more money, and do that better. So that's my thought is, it's working right now. It's killer. It's one of the better decisions. I mean, technology is what I know. Software has been great, but virtual assistants is what has made more profit and helped me combat, like you said, the slimmer margins, the landscape that we're facing, where we're headed. I mean, ending with this, McKinsey report talked about, and everyone I think has read it, or a lot of people have, they use the comparison of travel agencies to insurance agencies, and how they just one day, poof, woke up and they were gone. I don't believe that. I don't agree with that. I believe everyone focuses on that part, but they fail to look at the solutions that the McKinsey report said in the year 2013. The McKinsey, those dudes there that are very brilliant, they said run leaner and get some technology going if you want to stay alive and remain relevant. I don't believe we're gonna go to the travel agency type arena. I do believe, however, we need to, with margins going down, we need to adapt and evolve as well. And if we don't, I mean, we're going to fill that in our pockets. I mean, that's a real thing. We're going to fill that.
Sure.
So I'm gonna just so everyone will know, I'll put actually in IAOA a post to that McKinsey article that you referenced. I do think it's something everybody should read. One last thing, Wessly, and I think this is a question that was asked and we didn't get to it, but I think we saved it for last because it is most important. What are you using to condition the man bush hanging from your chin? How are you softening it? What are you doing to take care of it? Do you comb it daily? Like, what, do you give it the Jan Brady treatment? What are we doing on that?
He drinks lots of coffee.
Are we being honest here? Do you want me to tell you the honest truth?
I think the inquiring minds want to know, Wes. Give the people what they want.
Here we go. I have, as manly as I am, and let's preface this, I drive a diesel truck. I could knock Nick Ayers out with one punch. I mean, that's the reality of everything.
Just because he's top heavy. He's like a human stick figure.
I'm very top heavy. I have lotion.
You're very heavy. Yes, you're
very heavy. I have lotions. I have oils, and the oils are comprised of the tar of a pine tree, and they're comprised of the blood of a wolverine. So they just make me that much tougher and stronger. But this then kills it. Most recently on Amazon, I got a straightener for my beard.
Straightener.
And straighten this out so it's less pubic. So it's less curly and pubic and straightens it out.
That sounds
So
like
that's
the most,
another tool I use.
That sounds like the most beta thing I've ever heard in my life.
Bro, straight up alpha over here. You and your little girl surface and your nice cute coffee mug. Come on, dude. Leave it at home.
I'm be honest, guys. If you would have told me what word we wouldn't use on a collabcast, I think puby would have been it. Like, I honestly think that would have been #1 in my book. Puby. So with
and
that,
on that note, I mean, well, this has been another edition of COLLABCAST. Hey guys, we really appreciate you guys tuning in. We appreciate you guys asking questions. That's what makes this unique, is that we can take live questions and kind of get that feedback. We're gonna post this in the group as well, but let us know your thoughts. Let us know, really honestly, let Adam and I know, other than getting lame guests like Wessly, let us know where we can really improve. Let us know where we can step our game up. I mean, we try to make this conversational. We try to make it fun. Honestly, like I kind of go in this and I don't plan too many questions. I just want to hear Wessly talk and then ask questions based on that, just like you might in a conversation. So let us know where we can improve, or what you guys would like to see next. Maybe tag somebody that you'd like to hear from on the next COLLABCAST. We do this once a month. Adam, anything last you want to say?
Nothing. Thanks for listening, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Love to get feedback, and I just want to second Nick's stuff. Like, we really want to make this better. So any way we can do it better. I know we've gotten the BTs running. Hold me accountable about being better on this, and Nick and I both, so we can make this something more valuable to you guys. So please give us your feedback, and then we'll now banish Wes back to his home with the rest of the gnomes. He can go back underneath the bridge.
Hey, and I wanted to end with this just to let everyone know, like, I was that guy. I am that guy. No was about it. That asks questions on a regular basis and instant messages someone about something. Like, no one ever feel like they can't. I'm happy to answer any question. There's no stupid questions.
You'll just have one of your VAs answer it.
It's right.
Anything I can help with. I mean, that's the stuff that keeps me going. So don't feel like I won't. You're not going to hit my secretary or my VA that's going to block you. You can go right to me if you want my cell phone. I'll give it to you. I like people to use this more because selfishly I want it to grow. I think it's where things are headed. I'll grow with them as they use it. But I'm here to help in any way that I can to try to be objective and tell you what's worked and hasn't worked for me. So feel free to reach out.
Awesome. With that being said, IAOA, hashtag or hash brown, as Dave Jackson says it, better together. You guys have a good night.
Good night, guys.